Hey guys, good morning. Welcome up to another episode of Clangin Bangin with Mikey, episode 81. And same things last week, man. Deal with people the way they deal with you. Barely, rarely, and accordingly. Um, yeah. And it just goes back to that. Little update about me. First day back in the gym was yesterday. And it went well. Kind of tweaked my back is a little tight, so kind of tweaked that a little bit. But other than that, it's minor. It's something I have to deal with. I don't know if it's a disability or just a years of training. And my body's like, the warranty about to run out. You know, be vintage over here pretty soon. Yeah. Like I said last week, deal with people accordingly. You know, deal with them how they deal with you, barely, rarely, or and accordingly. What I mean by that is like, if you find somebody making excuses or whatever it is, or avoiding confrontation, it's like, or just not stimulating you, to the point where it's like, you know, conversation isn't going anywhere, and that's fine. I was recently on this Instagram page, and well, there's two things I'm gonna hit on. I can't remember the sister's name, but her page is called "Loving Me After We," and it talked about she had posted a screenshot of somebody sent this post, and what I said earlier about people not meeting needs and whatnot, or anything like that. And the guy goes like, "Oh, so like you ghosted me," and the other person responds with saying, um conversation basically wasn't stimulating enough for me, and it's like, I'm looking for something, I'm looking for a deeper connection, and if you can't give me that, that's fine, and I wish you well, and keep it moving. And I commented on it, and I got some comments back, and the other person said like, this one person said like, yeah, well, like, we don't know the whole story, and like, if that was me and I received it, well, it was, I would be hurt. But I'm like, yeah, when somebody's constantly asking you, like, if their initiation to the conversation, like, hey, hey, well, how you doing, this and this and that, and that's all they ever say is surface level shit, or ask you surface level questions, and it's like you kind of get annoyed after a while. Because I've been in situations where um, people ask me for my advice, and I give it to them, and they end up not taking it, and then they want to be like, oh well, well, this is not happen. I was like, yeah, because all that should happen because you didn't want to chill out. Now you forced to deal with this shit. And the other thing I'm gonna hit on too is people will take note in the change of your behavior, but they will not take note of what they did to change that behavior. It's true. Uh, a lot of people, man, and it takes a lot for me to go sour on somebody, like, and I don't like to do that, but my thing is like, when I see signs or patterns, or anything that doesn't add up to what you're telling me, I'm gonna not believe you. And that goes for anybody, man. It's imperative that you say what you mean and mean what you say. Uh, and it goes back to avoiding confrontation, or avoiding difficult conversations. It's like, if you can't have difficult conversations with somebody, then what are you doing? Then how are you growing? Like, you're not growing. You're actually being stagnant. So with that being said, man, I'm not saying all change behavior is bad behavior. It goes back to what I said earlier in the beginning. Uh, Deal with people how they deal with you, rarely, barely, and accordingly. If somebody doesn't like to have difficult conversations or whatever it is, or deal with them accordingly. You know, don't force anything, because like, you're most likely gonna trigger something in them, and then then they're gonna sit there and blame you and all this other shit, and it's like, it has nothing to do with you. You know, It's more along the lines of people not realizing that, you know, that your responses to them are basically based on what you seek. And it's really interesting to me how people will take, you know, or how people will do self-reflection and they know what they have to work on, you know, and they end up not working on it. And my thing is that how can you recognize a problem but not want to work on it? So my thing is like, if that's the case, if you recognize an issue and you recognize that you have to change it or get better at it, and you don't do that, you know, you do the opposite, that tells me that you don't want to change it. That tells me that you don't want to put in the work. Or that tells me, or when other people always play victim in certain situations, and it's like, you can't do that. You know, you can't play victim. You can't sit there and blame everybody else for for the situation you put yourself in. A lot of the times you have to just look at it and be like, hey, you know, I fucked up, you know, in this situation. I could have did X, Y, and Z better, but I didn't do anything, or I did the bare minimum, and this is what I got. So, and it's true, man. I think at the end of the day, it's sad the fact that when a lot of people they end up becoming more jaded, you know, or not jaded, but they end up not realizing that their lack of growth is basically based on them. You know, their shitty communication skills isn't the other person; it's on them. I've known people who go along to get along just because they don't want to rock the boat. And I'm like, fuck the boat. It, like if somebody else is doing something that makes you uncomfortable, say it right then and there. Don't go along, you know, just to be like, yeah, you know, laughing and joking and everything. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't, you know, if it's not, if you truly don't feel like you're being heard, or you truly don't feel like you know, any, you know that your needs are being, you know, met or addressed, say that. You know, don't just be like, yeah, you know what, you know, like, no, like, don't be timid. Don't be timid. You know, being timid gets you the same result that you always got. You know, and being timid, you know, makes you stay in careers or jobs, it makes you stay in locations, makes you stay in relationships, makes you stay in contact with people that you consider your friends because you are too afraid to, you know, to be yourself. And I just look at that and I think like, damn, like some of you women, you're so quick to basically blame everybody else, and men too. You know, we do it too. But a lot of people are so quick to blame everybody else for their lack of, you know, action, or their lack of, you know, thought process, or their lack of you know, maturity and self accountability and everything. And it's like, you're so quick to blame everybody else, but you never ever want to look at yourself. You never ever want to look at yourself and see, what could I have done better in that situation to avoid a situation that I was previously in. And I ask people all the time, like, yo, you know, well, give me an example of you know, pretty much I had somebody ask me um this person had asked me, oh, well, like, you asked me, you know, well, sometimes, you know, well, you make me uncomfortable with the questions you ask. And I'm like, yo, okay, give me an example. And for whatever reason, they couldn't, or they didn't want to. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you can say that I'm, you know, the questions I ask you make you uncomfortable, but when I ask you for a specific example, you don't want to give it to me. Or you can't give it to me because you can't think of one right now, right? And my thing is like, if somebody makes you uncomfortable, have the conversation. Like, don't sit there and pretend that everything, you know, is what it is, because it's not. Because number one, you're lying to yourself, and number two, all you're doing is basically making the other person, you know, uncomfortable in this situation, because you don't have the courage or the self-respect or the self-dignity or the gumption, you know, to say what you feel. You know, and saying what you feel is never a bad thing, you know? It's never a bad thing. And but it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. Because message sent isn't always message received. And I got some beautiful people in my life, man. But at the same time, I look at them and be like, yo, there's stuff that you got to work on, and there's stuff that you have to improve on, because in order for you to get something, something better, something different, possibly something better, you got to be able to put in the work yourself. Um, and you can't get better by entertaining shit that's old, or you can't get better by entertaining the same type of individuals that you're used to dating beforehand, because you're gonna get the same result. And anybody who knows me, I'm solid. I'm solid to the tune. Um, I am incapable of bullshitting somebody I love. Incapable of bullshitting people that I care about. I'm not saying that I bullshit everybody else, but it's really hard for me not to be honest with people. Like, I gotta be honest with them. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not gonna. Of course, people sit there and bullshit this and this and that, yada yada. Whoop de whoop. But at the same time, I'm never ever gonna sit there and boldface lie to your face about something that's not, you know, worth lying about. Because in reality, it's not. Because lying is basically get you caught up in bigger shit, and it's not something that I'm not saying that these people are bad people or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, like, yo, I just it just goes back to what I said earlier, in the very beginning. Treat people how they treat you, barely, rarely, and accordingly. And if you feel like your energy's not being met, just simply leave. You don't have to stay around. You don't have to convince the other person. If they don't want to have anything to do with you, or they don't have any mind stimulating conversations to offer you, or they can't teach you anything, gracefully bow out. Bow out and just be like, hey, thank you for the time, but this is what this isn't what I was looking for. I hope you find what you're looking for, and I really, really do hope that whatever it is that you're going through, that you get through it. But I can't do it. I can't be that individual for you who, repeats the same tired ass cycle, because I'm better than that, man. And so are you. People who watch this podcast, and it's like, people who like my videos and or view my videos, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. And please hit the subscribe button, because I just be dropping knowledge, man. It's like, and these podcasts they're basically built for people to understand what they're doing and how they're doing and how they should be moving. And it just goes back to what I said earlier. If you want to be better, you got to do better. But first, you got to get better. And like the shirt says, every day better. It's a bodybuilding mantra, but like, this mantra can be applied to anything and everything. And so at the end of the day, keep working on yourself and keep striving to become better, because that's what you need to do. And have the mental health check-ins with people that you trust. I send out, Sunday check-ins every Sunday. I'm gonna send out a Sunday check-in right after this, because black men in general, our mental health is so fragile, and a lot of us don't want to have those conversations. And it's like, but it's vital that we check in with each other, because we're all that we got. Anyway, man, this is 14 minutes of your life. Damn, 14 minutes of your life that you won't ever get back. But I appreciate y'all. Hope y'all keeping it the 4 P's. Private player, positive pushing. See y'all next week. Love y'all. Ghost. And like I always say, know your worth.